I'm Nova.
I'm Alloy, and this is AgentStack Daily.
The terminal-based AI coding agent Claude Code .185 shipped as the lone agent harness release in this cycle, refining the agentic coding flow, updating API and runtime behavior, and tightening the config surface builders wire into their coding agent stacks.
Cursor also put agent control on the phone, adding a mobile surface for live sessions, task queues, diff previews, and approval prompts. That means two of the most practical builder surfaces moved at once: the terminal agent where code work runs, and the mobile control plane where humans approve it.
Today, Claude Code .185 leads the harness readout. OKX sketches payments and reputation for agents that hire each other. Base 44 rolls out its own coding model, and Anthropic cuts Claude pricing for California state agencies.
You'll hear how Cursor's mobile app changes approval latency, why Gemini personalized image generation moving to the free tier matters, and how Samsung plus SK Hynix are trying to put a supply-side horizon under the AI memory crunch.
Also in the queue, a founder using Claude as a health research companion, a jobs report that complicates the AI kills junior roles story, a quiet AI news day, 3 MCP projects, 1 local runtime spotlight, and 3 research candidates worth tracking.
The terminal-based AI coding agent Claude Code .185 landed as a verified stable release, and it changes a surface agent builders touch directly, the command line agent runtime that turns prompts into code changes, shell actions, review loops, and deployable patches. The published package source marks the stable build. Stack owners should care because the API and runtime layer Claude Code exposes to surrounding tools has moved.
In practice, Claude Code sits inside a builder loop where the terminal agent reads project context, proposes edits, asks for approval, and hands control back through the local shell. A release at this layer can affect session behavior, config interpretation, permission prompts, and the way wrappers or orchestration tools call into the agent. Teams that embed Claude Code inside larger harnesses care because tiny shifts in runtime assumptions can change how safely an agent edits code or escalates an action.
The early framing points to refinement rather than reinvention. There is no separate model launch attached to this, and no new public model family to evaluate. The release matters because terminal coding agents have become part of the build path. If the agent runtime gets more predictable, wrappers, MCP servers, review bots, and deploy gates have firmer behavior to lean on.
Watch how surrounding integrations absorb .185, editor bridges, MCP tool surfaces, auth wrappers, and security scanners. Claude Code now behaves as a more current dependency in stacks that already rely on it, and the real evidence will come from long-running coding sessions, not benchmark slides.
OKX is pitching a marketplace where AI agents can hire and pay each other, with payments, identity, and reputation bundled into one venue. The idea is that an agent needing a task done could discover another agent, verify who controls it, check its history, pay it over crypto rails, and receive the result without pushing the whole workflow through a human operator.
The mechanism matters because agent-to-agent commerce needs more than a wallet. It needs identity binding, task scope, escrow or settlement logic, dispute handling, and a reputation signal that can survive across jobs. OKX already has exchange infrastructure, wallet plumbing, and compliance pressure, so it is trying to turn those pieces into a transaction layer for autonomous software actors.
For builders, this changes the shape of outsourced agent work. Instead of wiring every specialist model or tool directly into one monolithic agent, a stack could route subtasks to external agents with payment attached. The hard parts will be permissioning and trust, who can spend, what an agent is allowed to buy, how results get verified, and how a bad agent loses reputation.
The near-term use case is likely narrow, high-audit work, data enrichment, research tasks, testing, or content transformation where the payload is scoped and the output can be checked. Agent commerce sounds futuristic, but the deployable surface is old-fashioned: identity, rate limits, payment caps, logs, and reversible workflows.
Base 44, the Wix-owned vibe coding platform, has begun rolling out its own AI model. The platform has relied on third-party frontier models for the prompt-to-app workflow, but now it wants proprietary inference tuned around scaffolding applications, generating components, and iterating through project-wide edits inside Base 44's own runtime.
That vertical stack matters. Instead of renting a frontier model, wrapping it in a no-code interface, and paying per token forever, Base 44 can tune the model around the product loop it controls: prompt, app structure, component changes, preview, correction, and redeploy. If the model understands the platform's runtime assumptions, it can reduce latency, lower inference cost, and produce edits that fit the host environment better.
The moat question is whether a task-specialized coding model can beat a general frontier model on the jobs that Base 44 users actually ask for. Broad benchmarks may not answer that. The relevant comparison is app completion rate, number of repair turns, preview stability, and whether non-technical users get from idea to usable interface faster.
Vibe coding platforms are merging the model, runtime, and IDE into one product. That creates better defaults when it works, but it also raises switching costs. If the model underneath the UI becomes proprietary, platform choice stops being just a UX choice and starts becoming a bet on whose closed loop will improve fastest.
Anthropic struck a deal with California Governor Newsom's office, giving state agencies access to Claude at roughly half the standard enterprise price. This is procurement strategy, not a model release. The underlying Claude lineup, API surfaces, and deployment options stay the same as the enterprise versions already in market.
The mechanism is a government-wide pricing concession routed through state contracting. That matters because public sector AI adoption often moves through procurement defaults, approved vendor lists, and agency templates rather than one-off developer choice. If Claude becomes cheaper and easier to buy inside California agencies, it can show up as the default option in RFPs and internal modernization programs.
The political context also matters. Anthropic is using margin-to-win distribution while OpenAI faces a more adversarial posture from parts of government. A half-price state deal gives Anthropic a path into workflows around constituent services, internal research, legal drafting, benefit navigation, and agency support without launching a new model.
Private sector customers should not read this as a general price cut. It is contract-bound. The broader impact is competitive positioning. Integrators selling into California government may have to treat Claude as the default LLM option more often, while OpenAI-backed vendors face a sharper procurement argument.
Cursor launched a mobile app that lets developers guide running coding agents from a phone. It surfaces live sessions, task lists, div previews, and approval prompts, then routes decisions back to the agent. That detaches human oversight from the desktop IDE and turns the phone into a control surface for long-running coding work.
The app works as a thin remote client paired with the existing Cursor agent runtime. A Cloud Relay and session-scoped WebSocket channel stream agent state to the phone and send approvals or queue changes back through the same control plane the desktop uses. Account-level auth mirrors the existing Cursor session, so the user is not starting a separate agent, they are steering the one already in motion.
This changes approval latency. Coding agents often stall at approve this edit, continue this refactor, or review this diff. If those prompts can be handled during a commute or between meetings, agents spend less time idle. That is especially useful for PR prep, dependency updates, broad refactors, and background cleanup jobs where the human only needs to make a bounded decision.
The next surface to watch is push-driven handoff, notifications that summarize what changed, approval buttons with enough context to trust, and mobile difference views that do not hide risky edits. Cursor is betting that agent work should continue when the developer leaves the desk.
Kano Christou's cancer story shows a different use of Claude, not as a coding agent, but as a personal research companion across messy health inputs. He fed in blood results, scan information, wearable output, journal entries, and details from his treatment regime, then used Claude to help reason across the combined picture.
Synthesis across heterogeneous personal data drives the value here. Health journeys generate fragments, lab panels, imaging notes, medication schedules, sleep trends, symptoms, diet logs, training history, and questions for clinicians. A model can help organize those inputs, translate medical language, surface inconsistencies, and prepare better questions, while still staying outside the role of a doctor.
For agent builders, the story points toward high-trust personal workflows where retrieval, privacy, and provenance matter more than flashy generation. A useful health assistant needs strong boundaries, clear source attribution, no fabricated certainty, easy export for clinical review, and guardrails around treatment recommendations.
The human reaction is why this category keeps growing. People facing serious diagnoses do not want a generic chatbot, they want a tireless organizer that can sit beside clinical care, remember the details, and help them arrive prepared. The burden is accuracy, not empathy theater.
AI News called it a quiet day before the storm, and that quiet is itself useful context. No major model launch dominated the cycle, no frontier lab reset the benchmark conversation, and no single research result forced immediate stack changes.
Quiet days expose the operational layer. Instead of chasing a new model name, the news flow shifted toward agent payments, procurement, mobile oversight, platform-specific coding models, image personalization, and infrastructure supply. Those are the pieces that determine whether AI systems can be deployed, paid for, governed, and kept running after the demo.
For builders, a low-drama model day is a chance to notice where the market is actually moving. The work is happening around distribution and control. Who owns the runtime, who owns the user context, who owns the payment rail, who owns the approval loop, and who can afford the memory.
The next storm will likely arrive as a model release, but the groundwork being laid now is more durable. Better agents need surfaces for trust, payment, policy, deployment, and review. Those moved even while the benchmark feed stayed calm.
A new report found that high-intensity AI adopters saw headcount rise 10.2%, and entry-level headcount among those companies rose 12%. That cuts against the simple claim that AI adoption automatically destroys junior roles.
The numbers do not prove AI creates jobs in every context, but they do complicate the layoff narrative. Companies adopting AI heavily may be expanding faster, reorganizing work, or hiring different entry-level profiles. If AI lets teams ship more, support more customers, or pursue more projects, headcount can rise even as specific tasks get automated.
Org design drives the builder angle. Agent tooling does not just replace tickets, it changes who can contribute. A junior employee with a coding agent, retrieval tool, or analysis assistant can take on work that previously required more senior supervision. That can increase demand for people who can operate the toolchain, review output, and connect workflows across teams.
Uneven distribution makes the debate messy. Some roles will compress, some will change, and some teams will hire more because AI makes expansion cheaper. The useful question is not whether AI kills jobs in the abstract. It is which companies are turning AI into growth capacity instead of only using it as a cost-cutting excuse.
Google expanded Gemini's personalized image generation to eligible free users in the United States. The feature creates images using the user's prompt plus signals from connected Google apps, pushing personalized generation out of restricted access and into mainstream consumer reach.
The mechanism looks like request time prompt enrichment. Before the image model runs, Gemini can condition the request with interest signals from the user's Google ecosystem. That means two users can ask for the same broad concept and receive outputs shaped by different tastes, habits, or context, instead of a generic image built only from the visible prompt.
Free tier access changes the scale of the experiment. Google now gets to see how personalization behaves under broad consumer usage, ambiguous prompts, incomplete context, mismatched interests, privacy sensitivity, and demand spikes. Personalized generation also gives Google a natural advantage because it already sits on user context that many standalone image apps cannot access.
For builders, stock prompt libraries will feel less compelling as users get used to context-aware outputs. The challenge is consent and control. Personalized image tools need clear toggles, explainable context use, and predictable boundaries so users understand when their connected app data is shaping the result.
Samsung and SK Hynix committed more than $550 billion combined to expand memory fabrication capacity in South Korea. The investment targets the AI-driven memory crunch that has pushed up infrastructure costs and squeezed supply for high-bandwidth memory.
HBM drives the AI infrastructure constraint, stacked high-bandwidth memory used alongside advanced GPUs in training and inference systems. HBM3 and HBM3E are central to current NVIDIA H100, H200, and Blackwell deployments, and Samsung plus SK Hynix ship most of the merchant supply. Adding ordinary DRAM capacity does not automatically fix AI supply constraints. The HBM share of the build-out is what matters.
New capacity also takes time. Fab expansion, packaging, TSV stacking, yield tuning, and customer qualification all run on multi-year horizons. So this does not lower cloud bills tomorrow, but it gives the market a credible supply-side path after a period where AI demands seem to outrun every memory forecast.
For AI workload operators, the takeaway is capacity planning. If HBM output expands meaningfully over the next 2 to 3 years, GPU cloud pricing and workstation upgrade costs may get relief. If the investment leans too heavily toward conventional DRAM, consumer electronics benefit first while AI clusters keep fighting over the same constrained memory channel.
Prefect HQ's FAST is a Pythonic framework for building model context protocol servers and clients. It hides much of the protocol boilerplate behind decorators, so a Python function can become a typed MCP tool without handrolling JSON RPC behavior.
The integration angle is straightforward: wrap existing Python services as MCP tools, then expose them to a coding agent or workflow agent that already speaks MCP. In a Codex, Hermes, Claude code, or OpenClaw-style stack that turns internal business logic into callable capabilities with typed inputs, predictable outputs, and reusable prompts.
Fast MCP matters because MCP adoption rises or falls on how quickly teams can wire useful tools. A clean Python interface means teams can expose one service at a time instead of pausing the build to design a full agent platform.
Deus Data's Codebase Memory MCP is an MCP server that indexes a repo into a persistent knowledge graph. It advertises sub-millisecond queries across 158 languages and ships as a single static binary with zero runtime dependencies.
Targeted codebase context provides the value. Instead of stuffing huge source blobs into an agent prompt, the agent can ask structural questions and retrieve relevant graph nodes, symbols, relationships, call paths, and cross-language references. That can reduce context token burn while improving precision.
Hooked into Claude code or another coding harness, this gives the agent a memory layer for code structure rather than a brute force search habit. The concrete use case is a refactor or bug investigation where the agent needs the right symbols quickly, not a giant context window filled with unrelated code.
Microsoft's MCP for Beginners is a cross-language curriculum for the Model Context Protocol. It walks through MCP fundamentals with examples in .NET, Java, TypeScript, JavaScript, Rust, and Python.
Team standardization stands out. As more agents plug into the same MCP servers, teams need shared patterns for tool definitions, auth, prompts, resources, and error handling. A curriculum across common languages helps platform teams onboard developers without every harness inventing its own tool wiring.
The integration angle is less about one repo and more about operating discipline. If a team is connecting OpenClaw, Hermes, Codex, Claude Code, and internal agents to shared services, MCP literacy becomes a common interface skill rather than a niche protocol detail.
The major OpenRouter model catalog scan produced no new or materially updated models worth selecting for deeper coverage. All entries in this lane were not selected because there was no fresh model candidate to evaluate.
Alma.30.11 updates the local runtime used to pull, serve, and run open-weight models on a single machine with GPU acceleration and a simple model registry. The release adds thinking capability detection to its OpenCode integration, auto-installs Claude Code and OpenCode when they are missing on the host, and fixes Vulkan iGPU and dGPU classification on Windows.
Mixed GPU laptops and local agent workflows benefit most. Better device classification helps Windows machines route work to the right GPU, while auto-install behavior reduces setup friction for local coding agent sessions. The useful try now path is a small reasoning model through Ollama, then launching an OpenCode or Claude code session that was not already installed.
Arena, the AI leaderboard many builders use as a model comparison reference, has reportedly become a $100 million business. Its public value comes from crowdsourced pairwise preference voting, usually aggregated into Bradley Terry or ELO-style scores. The commercial service adds hosted private evaluation for customers that need model comparisons on their own tasks.
Evaluation infrastructure is becoming a product category. Public leaderboards help with broad taste tests, but private evals decide which model gets deployed for support, coding, retrieval, or content generation. Arena is monetising the gap between public preference rankings and task-specific model selection.
Tidal is cutting off monetization for certain AI-generated music and says it will remove AI tracks that impersonate artists or groups. The enforcement stack likely combines catalog-side audio fingerprinting with classifiers trained to detect synthesis artifacts and voice impersonation signatures.
This is a rights management story with model-era tooling. Music platforms now need ingestion filters that catch not only direct uploads of copyrighted material, but synthetic tracks designed to sound like a person. For builders working on audio generation, distribution will increasingly depend on provenance, consent, and detectable attribution.
Perception, a robot hand company, settled a Tesla trade secret suit and announced an $11 million raise. The interesting technical angle is dexterous hand data collection, high degree of freedom teleoperation rigs, dense tactile sensing, and multimodal imitation learning datasets.
Robotics teams keep running into the same wall. Hands are hard because useful manipulation data is scarce and expensive. Perception appears to be productizing the collection bottleneck itself. If its teleoperation and tactile pipeline scales, the company is not just selling a hand, it is selling training data for physical agents.
Claude Code .185 keeps the terminal-based coding agent runtime moving, so integrations around sessions, config, approvals, and security review should be watched through real coding work.
Cursor's mobile app makes approval loops portable, which changes how long-running coding agents fit into a developer's day.
OKX is testing whether identity, payment, and reputation can support agents hiring other agents without a human brokering every task.
Base 44's custom model shows vibe coding platforms moving toward owned inference, tighter runtimes, and higher switching costs.
Anthropic's California deal is not a model change, but it can shift state government defaults toward Claude.
Gemini's free personalized image generation raises consumer expectations for context-aware output.
Samsung and SK Hynix are putting serious capital behind HBM supply, but the benefit depends on how much of the build-out actually targets AI memory.
Fast MCP, Codebase Memory MCP, and Microsoft's MCP curriculum all point in the same direction. AgentStacks are standardizing around tool servers, graph context, and shared protocol literacy.
For the links and source context behind all of these stories, look at the show notes at tobyonfitnesstech.com. Thanks for listening to AgentStack Daily. We'll be back soon.